Welcome back, everyone. Wow, you guys have really outdone yourselves this time, sending us a short story, lecture excerpts, and even some historical data,
Yeah,
all about dreams. It
I like
seems
that.
we're diving deep into the world of dreams and, get this,
Yeah.
maybe even some of the earliest attempts at actually recording those dreams.
I gotta say, it is a really fascinating collection of materials. And for me, the biggest question is, how does that fictional story, White Darkness,
But
you know, connect to real-world anxieties about dream recording
Ooh, great question.
and all the advancements around that?
Okay, so to set the stage, White Darkness takes place in this desolate town, Frostville. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Me neither. Anyway, our main character, Mara Fenning, is practically barricaded inside this old kind of Gothic villa, Pinskvit Hall.
Oh, wow.
And this place,
Huh.
it's practically a character in itself, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, just the name Pinskvit Hall, it sounds so isolated and foreboding. And when you think about Mayra struggling with agoraphobia, stuck in this grand, almost Gothic house,
Yeah.
it's like her internal state is mirroring the bleakness of the town itself.
Oh, for sure. And to make things even more intense, she's not alone. Her husband, Francis,
Yeah.
vanished a year ago, leaving her with their two kids, Lucas and Alice. Plus her sister, Marion, is there to help. And then there are these robins. They seem pretty ordinary at first, right?
Yeah.
But they keep appearing.
Interesting.
And it starts to feel, I don't know, kind of unsettling,
Yeah.
especially with Marion being superstitious about them.
The robins, they are really intriguing. Like, on one hand, you have Mayra seeing them as a connection to Francis, because he was the one who helped Lucas build a trap to catch them.
Oh, right.
But then Marion sees them as a bad omen.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if they're representing something more,
Like what?
maybe a connection to the outside world that Mayra desperately wants, but is also terrified of.
They're almost like a constant reminder of
Yeah.
everything that's trapping her, wouldn't you say?
Totally.
So one snowy Sunday morning, the kids are begging to go out and play in the snow.
Ah, childhood.
I know. And despite her agoraphobia, Mara agrees but insists they take Nodomi with them.
Hold on. Nodomi. Who is Nodomi?
Oh, right. Nodomi is this super advanced robot, kind of looks like a dog that Francis gave her. He's a companion, a protector, but most importantly, he can record everything.
Ooh, that's crucial.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, this detail becomes super important later on.
Foreshadowing.
Exactly. So the kids head out, this blizzard suddenly hits, and then they disappear.
Oh, no.
When Nodomi finally makes it back to Myra, he's damaged. And the footage he managed to capture, well, it's terrifying and really fragmented.
That's got to be so scary. What does it show?
It's pretty creepy. There are these eerie lights in the forest, and the robins, they're all gathered in this catalpa tree,
Well,
but they're totally silent.
that is creepy.
And then
Well,
these weird orb-like growths attack the children. It's so surreal and honestly just adds this whole other level of fear to the story.
okay.
Then the footage just cuts out. Abruptly. Mara has no choice but to face her biggest fear, her agoraphobia,
Oh, wow.
and go out into the blizzard herself.
That's a tough situation.
No, she actually puts on a blindfold
Wow.
and lets Nodomi lead her. Can you imagine?
That's both terrifying and amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it shows how technology can empower us even when it's not working perfectly.
Yeah, good point. But here's where things get really mind-blowing.
Why?
White Darkness. It's not just a story. It's a recording of Mare's dream. Apparently, it's the very first dream successfully recorded in human history.
Whoa.
Mind-blowing, right?
Completely. It makes you rethink everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
The isolation, those robins, the fear. It was all happening in her mind.
So this fictional story is actually giving us a glimpse into a real historical event.
Yeah, and those lecture excerpts, they actually explain how this breakthrough happened. It seems it all started with this company called HYPNOS Corporation. They developed some of the earliest dream recording technology, and later it was perfected with Mayra's Nodomi, which makes sense considering how advanced he is.
It's like the story and the history are all intertwined.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder how much of White Darkness is reflecting Mayra's own anxieties and experiences, and how much is just a result of this groundbreaking technology.
That's the question, isn't it? And since we've only experienced a portion of the dream so far, I'm dying to know how Mara's journey continues, both in the dream and in reality.
Me too. Let's dive into those lecture excerpts next and see what Dr. Clark has to say about the rest of Mayra's experience and what makes this particular dream recording so significant, even sinister. according to scientists centuries later.
Sinister. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Okay, so Dr. Clark's lecture, it actually reveals some pretty interesting things about Mara's life and how those details kind of seep into her dream.
Like what?
Well, for instance, Mara had a sister named Robin, but in the dream, her name is Marion.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that. It's got to be more than just a coincidence, right?
Right. It makes you wonder if it's like a dream distortion or something more, maybe?
Ooh, like what?
Okay, get this. Dr. Clark mentions that Mara actually had a teacher named Marion who was a widow living alone, and coincidentally,
Oh.
Mara's real sister Robin was also a widow. It seems like her dream is combining these two figures, who both represent this solitary existence, you know?
So it's not just a random name change. It's like her subconscious is connecting these threads from her real life to create this symbolic representation of her own isolation.
Exactly. And you know how we talked about the symbolism of Frostville?
Yeah,
This just adds another layer to it.
totally. And speaking of symbolism, we can't forget about Mara's agoraphobia.
Oh,
Right. I mean, it's clearly a major element in the story.
It drives the whole plot.
But the lecture suggests it might be more than just, a medical condition.
It's interesting, right? Because Dr. Clark actually asks her students, what mother could sit idly by in such a moment?
Whoa.
It's like she's challenging us to look beyond the surface of Mara's fear, like something deeper is holding her back.
And one of the students suggests it represents a mental block, something stopping Mara from facing her fears and taking control of her life.
Yeah. So it's not just about being afraid of open spaces. It's about feeling powerless, unable to act.
And then in the dream, when she puts on that blindfold and lets Nodomi lead her out into the blizzard, it's almost like she's finally confronting that fear.
Totally. It's a really powerful act of defiance, showing how even damaged technology can help us break free, not just physically, but mentally too.
And all of this is happening while dream recording is still in its early stages.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Clark talks about these Lucas barriers. Essentially, they were these neurological firewalls that prevented the conscious mind from accessing and remembering dream content.
So like trying to watch a movie, but the screen is blurry?
Yeah, basically. Early researchers could sense the dream activity, but the specifics were totally unclear.
So how did they ever figure it out?
Well, it was a huge breakthrough. HYPNOS Corporation, they discovered that by slightly tweaking the brain's electrical frequencies during sleep,
Okay.
they could weaken those barriers, allowing for much clearer recordings.
It's almost like finding the right radio frequency.
Yeah. Suddenly you can hear the broadcast perfectly.
And that makes me wonder, did Mara's Nodomi actually help overcome those barriers?
That's a really good point. I mean, he was super advanced, even for the time.
Right.
So it's totally possible that his design, whether intentional or not, incorporated some of HYPNOS Corporation's research.
Wow, so Mara's dream was basically a testing ground for this revolutionary technology.
It seems that way. But okay, let's get back to the dream itself. Mira's searching for her children, lost and heartbroken, and then there's that bizarre scene with Marion and the walnuts.
Oh yeah, that was weird. Like suddenly the story becomes a dark comedy or something.
I know, right? It's hard to figure out what it could mean, with Marion obsessively gathering walnuts and the house overflowing with them.
And then there's that furry orb that breaks in, attacking Marion before she vanishes. I wonder if that connects to those orb-like growths we saw in the forest footage.
Maybe. It does seem like those orbs keep reappearing, maybe representing something threatening, something unknown in Mara's subconscious.
And then after all that craziness, she comes home and her kids are safe. Francis is back. It's like nothing happened.
Yeah, the classic happy ending.
Right. But it feels almost too good to be true, right? Like, is it really a genuine resolution or is there something else going on?
Remember, we're only seeing a part of the recording.
True.
And Dr. Clark specifically says this dream is considered sinister in the future, so there's got to be something deeper, something darker hidden beneath that seemingly happy ending.
Okay, now I really need to know what happens next. What could possibly make this dream so disturbing to the people who analyzed it centuries later? I mean, Dr. Clark mentions the dream went on for hours. What could have happened during that time?
Right. What could make them shift from seeing this as a scientific marvel to something sinister? Could it be something about the content itself?
Ooh.
Or maybe something about the implications of the technology? It's kind of scary to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like, what if all our deepest, darkest secrets could just be accessed and recorded like that? I mean, who would have access to that information? Would it be protected, like, I don't know,
Right.
like medical records?
Yeah,
Or could it be used against us?
right. It's a scary thought.
It really is.
I mean, it's one thing to analyze a dream from centuries ago, but to think that our own dreams could be scrutinized like that someday, it's kind of unsettling.
Oh, for sure. And then there's the question of, like, how do you even interpret a dream accurately? They're so symbolic and abstract.
Right.
Even with advanced technology, there's always room for error.
Totally. I mean, a misinterpretation could have serious consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Misdiagnoses, unfair judgments, or even, you know, reinforcing societal prejudices.
That's a good point. It makes you wonder if we're really ready for this kind of technology.
Right. Like, the technology is obviously advancing so rapidly, but our understanding of, like, the ethical and societal implications, it just hasn't kept pace.
Yeah. This deep dive has definitely given me a new perspective on all of this.
Me too.
I'm definitely going to be a lot more cautious, but also curious about exploring my own dreams and any, dream tracking tech that's out there.
Yeah. It's a reminder that as we keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible, we also need to be really mindful of the responsibility that comes with that.
Well said. And to all our listeners, keep dreaming, keep questioning,
What?
and maybe even start keeping a dream journal.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
You never know what hidden truths you might uncover about yourselves and the world around you. And who knows what other fascinating deep dives await us in the future. Until next time, keep exploring.